so excited to be back together. The COVID break, we have our team and we have our little small team and we're just so excited to be back here. I think I made a mistake picking the first slot. I had to do that because Coach will cut me off. So don't think I'm being abused. I'm used to it after 50 years. If he stands up and says, "That's enough, Jane. We don't want to hear any more about motivation." So, but I know some of the people that really wanted to be here are not here yet. They're texting their home from traffic. But I want to tell you what a great opportunity this has been for us to be here with Coach Will Healy, who we are just in love with, and we appreciate having it here so much. It's just the perfect venue to host a football leadership conference at a beautiful football facility like this. So we really appreciate you sharing your facility with us, and people have been so helpful. And then I don't know that Johnny explained it clearly enough to some of you that Bruce Brumfield, as the CEO of Founders, sponsors, Founders pays for everything. And as I said, Will so generously has given us this facility, which helped a lot. But I wanted to be sure that that we thank Bruce, and also to thank Coach Trevathan for his help last night. And there it is. And for the coaches that Coach Healy had, because I think people really liked the on-field experience last night with the X's and O's. One thing that you might not like, but one of the parts of our leadership experience has been the importance of having time to unplug. Coach Roscoe has not mastered this. He is addicted to his phone. But today is a no phone day. I know that that's shocking to you. So we do ask that you put your phone up and that you turn it off for the day. Now, I know you have important texts and you have important calls and you have things. So please feel free to get up and leave at any time that you need to go to the restroom, or you need to make a call, or you need to check your phone, or you need to text. But if you just put your phones out of sight, because data shows that even if you can see it, your 60% of your focus is on your phone. So this is a no phone zone today, but as I said, please feel free to get up and go and do whatever you want to do to make a phone call. We have a number of people who are here for the first time, and so there's some things that Coach wanted me to explain to you about how we used books, how I used books in coaching, and how successful that we felt that it has been. I've always played a bigger part than most in our football coaching and beyond lemonade and cake. But when we went to Northern in 2008, I quit teaching AP history, so I had to teach somebody, I guess. And so that is when I really got on this kick about how we would have a brand, how we would have a theme, and how we would have motivation, not just in the locker room before we went on the field. Actually trying to find the edge in what I call the new football. Because as when you coach as long as we have, you see how much football has changed. I mean, you know how much has changed if you've been coaching for 10 years. And so you have to modify and adjust, of course, or you have to grow. So I would try to figure out and look at colleges who had the edge that I saw at that time. And Ohio State was one that did. And does. So our recruiter at that time, I had read Jim Trussell's book, but I'm sure that lots of you have read his book. He kept referring to the old notebook. So I made it my mission that I was going to get a copy of one of those old notebooks. That turned out to be quite a hard thing to get. And that was the first notebook that Jim Trussell made coaching at Ohio State. It's made out of just regular paper, white paper cover, and it was just a collection of quotes and motivational things that he had heard about in his career. And it's all put together. It's not any subject, not any topics, but it was about this thick. So I finally was able to get an Ohio recruiter that we had known, who later went to the pros, who got me one of the originals. which was very hard to get. And so I said, okay, I'm going to make a Northern notebook like this, when we went to Northern. And so that's what it started out as that first thing. Well, then as I really got into it, I realized that there were so many motivational speakers, books, and ideas that we had not used in our previous coaching that I thought could give us that edge. And it's no question that it did give us that edge. And Kyle Richardson also later, I helped him win the big one when he was at Northwestern. And he says today that he knows for sure that that's what made the edge. That's what gave him the edge to win after he had gone to the state twice and not won. Because that is just the way you have to coach today. So I developed where we would have a theme every year, and that we would start with the coaches first with our staff, and we would have a marathon, sometimes one day, sometimes several days with our staff, and then we would have 12 preseason with our team. So before we went out on the practice field, we went in the classroom with me. And these were short because coaches, it's 8.5 minutes to do this, or you got 6 and 7 3/4 minutes to do this. And so they were short, but we did the 12 preseason. Just like the preseason days of practice, it started in the classroom with motivation and leadership and character. Somehow related. The lesson that I gave was somehow related to that. And I got the ideas for lessons based on books. I did 10 a year and have done since then, which is 120 books now, just on football or leadership since 2008. And so then after the coach and the staff had been indoctrinated, and then we did 12 preseason sessions with our team, and then we didn't start back, but it was constantly, we did things every week. But then when we got to the playoff season, which coach always treated as a new season, and y'all correct me if I don't say how we did this correctly, then we started with one a week. Yeah, I did something 4 days a week for 5 weeks. But Monday was Motivation Monday. And so we didn't, because I found that if you do this all the time, it gets old. And players get used to it, and staff gets used to it. And so during the season, we did our regular season things, but when the playoffs, that Monday, everything kicked off again. And then I always had a particular book on those every playoff season. And we had lessons, the 5 lessons, every Motivation Monday, as long as we won, based on some of these books. So that list has 120 books. And if you've been here before, you have that list. If any of you want that list, you certainly can get it. Now, the list you've got today is in your gray notebook, and it is titled Founding Leadership Book Recommendations for 2022. So all these are new that we've never talked about before. So that is, and Coach wants you to have it so if you couldn't write down the title or you didn't get it off the PowerPoint, that you would have the titles with you right here. This was all very, very important for us winning 4 state championships. And part of that success, of course, would not have been possible without our wonderful assistant coaches. And I am so proud of them, and we have 3 of them here with us today. Richard Burton, Todd Sharp, and Charles Shields. They're my pride and joys. I know, but we're thrilled to have them with us today, and we could never have had that success. It wouldn't have been possible without their help. And poor things, they have had to go through every kick I got on every year and every season, whatever it was. They all continue to read and lead at different schools. Richard continues to read and lead at Reagan High School in Winston-Salem. One of my kicks was that we would have a morning routine where you had, and this was from a book, of course, that you had to get up every morning at 5:30 and read. There were 8 of us. Now there are 1 of us. Richard is the only one who has continued that habit. for all these years, to continue to get up at 5:30 and read. Definitely, I think it has been a part of Richard's success. He's won the 4 state championships with us in football, and then he has won 6 track state championships in North Carolina and 1 national track championship. So we wanted him to share the podcast and the books that he is reading. We read a lot of books together, and then we also read separately ones and share with each other. And so Richard is going to share his books first and the podcast, because he's more up with the podcast than I am. And so this is the golden child, as he's known, Coach Richard Burton.
First of all, I appreciate everybody being here. The books the process of me reading books first came from Coach, I call him Coach Roscoe, Mama Roscoe. But then also the process of continuing reading books early in the morning came from having kids. If you have kids, you definitely understand that they do not care about your schedule. And when they wake up, it's their time and it's go time. What are we eating? Where are we going? What are we doing? So by process of I don't have time to myself, I said I have to get up earlier or continue this process earlier. Otherwise, I'm just never going to get it in. Now, I'll be honest with you, I tried it. I tried the whole, okay, well, y'all get up at 8, go in the room, do whatever. I'm going to be in my room reading. Didn't happen. I fought it for a while, and I said, no, I just got to get up earlier than later. So, be honest with you, I have a 9-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. So I am constantly trying to improve myself because I know at one point, well, every day, but I know at one point they're going to be asking me, how can they be better people? And I have to lead them the right way. In order for them to be the right people, I have to be the right person. So honestly, that's where a lot of my motivation and drive comes from. Just when I look at my kids and I look at the kids that I teach every day, and a lot of them, some of you probably have those gentlemen in your room. They don't come from a background where they have father figures, and somebody has to be that father figure for them. I'll be honest with you, I took a gentleman home 2 days ago, and if you've ever been to Winston-Salem Reagan High School, you kind of know the area where it is. This gentleman, he goes to Reagan High School, and he stays nowhere near Reagan High School. He stays in an environment where people would probably not want to go. But it put me back to a position of saying, this is why I do what I do. For the kids that don't have the opportunity that other kids have. So, leaders are not born, they're made. I'll be honest with you, with Coach and Miss Roscoe, Mama Roscoe, they actually, that's the reason I'm standing before you today. Without them two, I would not be here. Coach actually hired me right out of college. I didn't know Coach. Coach didn't know me. I was blessed to get an interview with him. The interview probably lasted 5 minutes. I'll be honest with you. I even dressed to the T. I had a coat jacket on and a tie. And he asked me 2 questions and it was over. And I was kind of like, is that it? And he was like, I'll see you in the summer. And I was like, all right. So I was still unsure if I got the job, but then he called me and I guess I started from there. And I've been with him ever since 2008. So, again, this is Coach. This is kind of our family situation. My picture up there is, I put that here to just let everybody know that you want to surround yourself with like-minded people. Like-minded people that's going to push you, make you uncomfortable, and make you want to be a better person. And I really got that from being right out of college. I got that from Coach and Mama Roscoe. And then a buddy on the right, and then your peers, the people you grow up with, we actually played college ball together. I actually looked at him as he motivated me just because of the things that he was doing outside on his side of life. Now he's on his own trucking business. He works in the school system. So like I get motivated through outside people and through people that's right beside me. Coach Sharp's right here. He's also in the picture. Coach Sharp is my fitness information specialist, I call him. So anytime I need anything about information or fitness-wise, I call Coach Sharp, nutrition and diet. So again, just getting motivated by the people around me. I was blessed from Coach to be a part of these 4 state championships. But I also learned from Coach them that it doesn't matter the environment. How can you motivate and lead? my goal was, to be honest with you, was to lead in the football environment. To each his own, and two different things that happened. I did not become a head coach in football. So I said, I still want to take those lessons that they taught me and the lessons that I learned, and how can I still apply it no matter where. And then that goes to now, I am the head track coach at Reagan High School. That's a blessing and an opportunity in its own, because Reagan High School has been open since 2005, and I am the first African American head coach at the school. So that's a blessing and opportunity, but I also understand that there comes a responsibility with that. Okay, so I'm blessed to teach, coach these gentlemen that you see in the picture. I'm still close with all of them, but we've had some great success, and all I have done with Coach Roscoe, and Ms. Roscoe will tell you today, I've taken what they taught me and applied it to just a different environment. All right, so the books I read, the lessons I've learned from 2008 to now, I sum it up and I just teach the track kids the same about how to be uncomfortable when it's time, how it's time to step up to the plate when the moment's on the line, how to take advantage of an opportunity because you don't have many opportunities. And like I tell them all the time, and I'm starting to learn, Coach Burton is a person who I wear my heart on my sleeve. Life ain't always there, and I tell my kids all that. And you're going to leave a legacy at some point. Now, the question is going to be, what type of legacy you want to leave? You're going to leave one. You're going to leave a story behind. The question is, what type do you want to leave? And I tell my kids all the time, when you come back 30 years from now, you tell your kids, when you walk in, you want to be able to tell your kids, your young kids, like, that's what your father did, that's what your mother did. I'm right there, and I'm always going to be there. On the wall, Hall of Fame, state championships, whatever that may be. But, and this is something I encourage, I write down and I reflect on every day, and I honestly would encourage other people to write this down, and I write it down every day. What makes you different than your competition? This is just a question I wholeheartedly ask myself on a regular basis. What makes me different than somebody else coach could have hired? Or somebody else Mama Roscoe could have taught leadership to? Or what makes me different than the person Reagan could have hired to be their head track coach? What makes me different? I have to prove every day, day in and day out, what makes me different. And to each his own, you can put a competition right there because we all coach football too. I'm also a defensive coordinator at Reagan. We all coach football, then your competition. Or you can take that out and say what makes you different as a father, as a husband, as a friend, just as a person. And that's just a different conversation I have in my mind on a regular basis. But I also understand I have to answer the question, because if I can't answer the question, then they can't answer the question. That's this question, and what makes you different is, for me, I'll be honest with you, I would never be here without books, podcasts, and Mama Roscoe and them taught me that, and Coach Roscoe taught me that. I have to read, I have to learn, I have to grow. I have to always be constantly in a growth mindset and constantly always trying to learn what's better, what's next. And a lot of things in a lot of books, to be honest with you, they're the same kind of information, but they just take you back to what's really important. So books and podcasts are what I really do. Honestly, I'm reading a book every day. I'm on the way drive down here again from Winston-Salem. I'll probably listen to 15 different Eric Thomas videos on the way down here. I'm just constantly listening to whatever motivates me so I can motivate others at the time that they need to be motivated. So the first book I want to talk about is Becoming a Person of Value. I actually have it up on the screen, but I actually bought it in person to show everybody. Success is not really pursued, it is attracted. So the more you become successful, and that's what he just talks about in the book, the more you become successful, the more attracted you are to people that are successful. And then it goes to the whole quote of if you're a 10, you hang out with 10, if you're a 5, you hang out with 5 kind of thing, and that whole quote. But what I really like about this book is just doesn't talk about certain topics. It has 27 different mini chapters. 27 mini chapters talks about mentality, being a person of value when it comes to your physical nature, your mental, your communication, how you become a person of value on the way you communicate with people. And the chapters are very small, but all right, it tells you and it teaches you how to be a person of value on the overall aspect of life, not just in one aspect of life. And as coaches, I feel like we have to do a great job of trying to be a person of value in all areas of life, like I spoke earlier, as a father, as a husband, as a friend, just as a general person walking through the halls. When they see you every day, you're asking how you're doing. They know you're a person of value because we want our boys and we want our young men to be people of value when they get older. I'm harder on myself than a lot of people are harder on themselves. Well, how can I ask you to be a person of value if I'm not a person of value? How can I hold your feet to the fire if I don't hold my feet to the fire? How can I get my son to make sure he holds up to the standards of the house when I'm not there if I don't hold myself to the standards in the house when I'm outside of the house? So that's my thing on being a person of value. It's a great book, quick read. Chapters are not very long. As you see, the book was not very big. This is a book that I'm reading right now, which is I thoroughly enjoy. The next book, the gentleman a lot of you might have heard of, he actually wrote, his first book is actually Relentless. He is Michael Jordan's Kobe Bryant, the late great Kobe Bryant, and the Wayne Wade's trainer. His first book was Relentless. It goes about Tim Grover. Now, his second book is about winning. Now, if you are a individual who doesn't like someone to be honest with you, it's probably not going to be the book for you because he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He tells you like it is, and he just puts it straight forward to you. Winning and this is a great thing that I got from this book. Winning doesn't have feelings. Like you can feel as much as you want to, you can want to be, you can, man, I wish doesn't have feelings, and I tell my kids that all the time. Winning doesn't care if you're angry. Winning doesn't care if you had a bad day. Winning wants results. That's what I got from him. And how do you get those results? You have to find a way. All right? You just have to find a way to get those results. It doesn't matter. So, and then he talks about, as you see, winning is selfish. Now, a lot of people think selfish in a bad connotation, but he puts it in a positive light in the sense of a lot of people say yes to everything. He's saying, winning, be selfish in the sense of you want to say, sometimes you got to say no to take care of yourself and to study and read and educate. All right? The more you study and read and educate, the more I can study, read, and educate others. And till this day, I'm still studying Coach Roscoe and Mama Roscoe and the way they move and the way they handle themselves and the way they communicate with others. But again, like you said, there are no shortcuts in winning. I have a team right now, I'll be honest with you, they try to make shortcuts. And I tell them it's a process of this. It's not going to work the way you think it works. It's not going to work because the past team was successful. It doesn't mean you're going to be successful. You're going to have to do the same thing they had to do, which put in blood, sweat, and tears, and sometimes be on the ground, pass out, and I'll pick you up. But you're going to have to do that to be successful in this tournament. And the more you're successful, the harder it is to stay at the top. And that's what I try to get them to understand. To each his own. Once you climb that mountain, that's one thing. To stay at the mountain is a whole different conversation. But winning, it's a great book. It's not, again, all these books are not like super long books, but they're great read books and they're really straight to the point books. That's what I try to get in. I don't try to, not the 400-page, 500-page books. Straight to the point, what do I need to learn and how can I apply it? Well, a lot of people say I don't have time to read every day, Coach, so, I don't have the time like that. Well, this is where daily wisdom comes from, and this is just a daily read. To be honest with you, the quote that you see up here, daily motivation today is not just another day. That's actually the insert from today in the book. It's actually the insert from today. I just took it and applied it to the PowerPoint, but it's just a daily read. It gives you a quote, and it gives you a lesson from different coaches. As you can see, this is a basketball motivation book. I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter where you get your motivation, where your leadership from, as long as you get it. I'll be honest with you, I haven't created anything. I've learned from the Roscoes, and I've learned from people who win. And that's what I take my information from. And I don't just stop at like football. I'll do John Maxwell, some of you may know him. Eric Thomas, some of you may know him. Basketball, Gino Auriemma is a gentleman. Pat Riley is in there. And then they actually have stories on how they motivate their team. It's just a daily read, and it takes about 1 minute to do that read. And that's why I thoroughly enjoy this. But as you can see, it says down here that, don't just take today, just another day. Tomorrow's not promised. And you just got to make sure you control today because you may not be able to control tomorrow. That hits hard with me because we were just down here a couple weeks ago for an unfortunate situation. But as I told my track kids, you can't take every day and think you're going to have tomorrow and then kind of halfway through today. Because if tomorrow doesn't come, then you just left yesterday as halfway. Again, goes back to my original statement of you're going to leave a lesson behind, you're going to leave a legacy behind, you're going to leave a story behind. What story do you want to leave behind? Even if it's your last practice of your life, you want the people to say, man, they got after it that day. At the end of the day, I tell the kids, at some point I'm going to pass away. But at the end of the day, when my kids walk through the hall at Northern and at Reagan, I've learned that when my kids walk through, I want them to look up on that wall and be like, no, my father did that. That was him. And now I have to step up to the plate and continue on what he did. All right? So I do hold a lot of pressure to myself in the sense of what I'm leaving behind and the legacy that I'm leaving for my kids. So that's the daily motivation. We had 27 chapters, a quick read, we had winning, and then this one we get the daily wisdom. Podcasts that I listen to podcasts on the regular. This is the Secret to Success podcast. That's what it's called. It's really by Eric Thomas. What he has is what he calls right hand, left hand man on there, and they kind of talk about leadership, entrepreneurship kind of thing. Again, I take lessons from I just take lessons from a wide range. I just don't get stuck on one sport. Anywhere I can find a lesson, I get a lesson. The Way of Champions, they have guest hosts on, again, people who have been successful in their field, and they just talk about their process on how to be successful in whatever range and in their field. Eric Thomas has also put out books. I just don't listen to his podcast. I've been with him. I think I introduced them in 2008 to Eric Thomas. I was actually sitting at home once again on a day and was kind of like, hey, I got to do better. So how can I do better? I got on YouTube and I found him, and I've been with him ever since. I tell my friend all the time, I refer to him as Eric, like we're best friends. I've only met him once, I'll be honest with you. But I refer to him like we're best friends. That's how much I listen to him.
They did call us up.
They have called us and made a video for us.
Which team on the telephone, good luck for our championship game. Of course, they were thrilled.
But he writes books. In this book again, and then this is his second book. But I have all his books, but I just brought a second book. This is a Greatness is Upon You book. It just has different chapters in it about how to be great. The Miles Health Show by Sean Stevens. He's actually written 2 books. Let me flip them because it's actually the first, it's actually the second. Sleep Smarter and Eat Smarter. Well, in order to do what we all do, we know it's long days, long hours. And I tell the kids all the time, and they joke with me now, that I tell my track kids all the time, they say, Coach, when we leave and when we coming back? I say, we're going to leave when it's dark, we're going to come back when it's dark. Okay, that's all I can tell you. That's all the time I can tell you. So I say, so in order for us to do that, we have to get our sleep when we need our sleep, and we have to eat the right way. Well, again, he's a leader in his field, in his area, and so I say instead of reinvent the wheel, learn from the best. And so this is where I listen to his podcast on a regular, and also teach health in class. So I try to teach my health kids and my track kids how to do that correctly. But that sums up my leadership journey. I'll be honest with you, I am very blessed to be here. I would not be here without Roscoe and Coach Roscoe. So I just want to tell them thank you for everything that y'all done for me. And so what I try to do is I've always looked at Coach as a mentor And I know Coach wants his assistant coaches to go and do and be successful in whatever they do. So again, I couldn't do it in football, but I said I am going to take the Roscoe lessons and apply it to the track and field. My last slide for me is, I'm always grateful, but I never settle. Like I said, I'm very blessed. I appreciate the opportunity. But I understand that the opportunity was given to me, and now how am I going to raise the opportunity for the next person? What I do either opens that door for the next person or closes that door for the next person. So that's why I never settled, and my quote to you all is that you're not here to be number two, to create a legacy of greatness. If we're going to take the times, and this is my last thing, and I firmly believe, if we're going to take the time to be away from our families and our wives and our kids, why not be great at it? Do the things that we need to do so when we walk back in those doors and we face our kids late at night, we can say, this is why your father is not here on a regular basis. But this is what I'm doing outside to make you proud of me and making sure everybody else is proud of me. I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity. I'm going to pass it off to my Roscoe.
And you can see why we're so proud of Richard, and Coach has given me the eye, so I know that means I got to go and fast forward. So let me know if it's too fast and you can't keep up. But the first book we're going to look at this morning is, well, on my list, is Stick Together. All of you are familiar with the John Gordon books. I'm sure you've read them. I'm sure you've used them. We've read all of them. We've used all of them. Those of you who know me know that the training camp is by far my favorite and got most out of for our actual teams. But I like all these books, and thanks to Bruce, I had the opportunity to meet and have lunch with him, and he also spoke to founders. So we've enjoyed our relationship and have learned a lot from John Gordon. He likes the fable concept. If you like to read a fable, I don't prefer that. Richard and some of the others like that. This, I had actually used this same lesson. I never thought of making the book, but about the Aesop fable about showing the team one stick and how easily it breaks. And I had bundled up sticks that looked just like this and showed them how it would not break as a point for one of those little mini lessons I was telling you about before you go on the practice field. This book takes it a little further. In this book, he has the coach write a word on the bundle of sticks. Say he's got 32 people. He's got 32 people's sticks in the bundle. This is actually a basketball coach, so he didn't have that many. But anyway, then he writes one word on the stick. And then that player is responsible for that word. He could say, Lloyd. You would go and research that word. That's the stick you got out of the bundle. And then you come back in a team meeting, you give to your teammates what you learned about loyalty and what you think how your individual team should have loyalty. This is a good idea. Very short book, it's only $10, but I like this stick lesson. As I said, I had used it in a different format and not ever thought of using it the way he did, breaking down the bundle into individual sticks with a word on each stick. And this is a great idea. This is good. The other book, his other book that's come out in the last 2 years is Row the Boat by P.J. Fleck, which we're all familiar with that kind of idea. You know, everybody's kind of got, a little team gimmick type thing. I think that's kind of, we need to think of some more things for that. The next two books are Make the Call by Mark Reed and the Out of Pocket Kurt Herbstreit book. They're good reads. They're interesting. There's some things in Coach Rick's book, Make the Call. He shares a lot of lessons that he's learned and he's taught his team. But it also has a very strong message of his personal Christian faith. So if you're interested in that, that book does have that strong theme throughout as he credits that, for the man he is, the life he's led, and everything. But it does have some interesting history about where he's coached and his life's journey. As I said, these are interesting, interesting reads. This one, Can't Hurt Me by Dave Goggins is just amazing. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. He's considered to be, and let me be sure I say exactly what he is. He is called one of the best ultra endurance athletes in the world. And his story is just amazing. This is one of the ones on the list that Coach and I both just couldn't put it down, and we would say to each other, can you believe this? Can you believe this? When we were reading it. He came from a background of abuse and extreme poverty, and he comes from one of the few people who have ever been a Navy SEAL and a Ranger. He became both. And then to go on and do all kinds of ultra marathons and other things. Just phenomenal. And you read all about the Army Ranger schools and that endurance, and more than most people have read, and then about Navy SEAls. It's just phenomenal, what he's done, what he pushed his body to do, and the things he did. And there's so many lessons in there that if we were still coaching, I would apply to our team. I would start coaches. I would want them to read it. It has terrible language. If somebody's offended by that, they don't need to read it. It's locker room language too. But he then takes it to about how he did all these things and how he found strength. And there's so many things that you can use. Throughout the book, his theme is the 40% theme. That all of us only use 40% of our capabilities. And he echoes that throughout the book. That's a strong message throughout, and just his workout routines and just everything he writes about. If you could only read one book on this entire list, I would pick that because it's just amazing. Also, I would use, I didn't know this at the time when I read the book, but he now has very short videos on YouTube. And they would be great for the staff, and they would be great also to use for players. I mean, some of them 6 minutes, 7 minutes, so there, if you don't want to read that book, you could look at some of his YouTubes. And it's just, all you have to do is just Google his name. The next one, The Leader's Mind. Some of you may be familiar with this author, Jim Afternoe. He is a sports psychologist and mental coach. That's what he goes by. And he also authored the book, The Champion's Mind. I know Richard has read that book. Some of y'all may be familiar with his book. This book is strictly on leadership, and I got some good things. I think there's some things in there that you can use if it's not that big a book. Richard is not holding my books up for me. Sorry, this was together. Dana, and this is the Leader's Mind, which Richard and I both have read. And he takes 8 leaders, and they're from very different backgrounds. The first chapter is about a U.S. Forestry fire manager, and about how I just never thought about how important the team concept is in leadership in forest fires. Major leadership required when you think about it, and teamwork. And so that's the first chapter. And then there's one of the chapters about a neurosurgeon. Here again, I never thought about the importance of a brain surgeon in surgery with the team that he has. And then he has the Stanford girls basketball soccer coach. He has the New Zealand rugby coach. He has another chapter is on Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. And these are short chapters. Then he has questions in there for you to ask yourself, and then he has a summary at the end of the chapters. But there were several things I wanted to share with you that I picked up in that book. The OODA loop. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with that. The OODA loop. And he got that from a military aviator who developed it as an acronym for how you handle a team and how you handle a crisis. And it's called Again, the OODA loop. And the acronym is for Observe, Orient, Decide, Act. And it is apparently taught as a method under crisis, under stress, and as a leadership key strategy. Observe, orient, decide, and act. And another tool in this book that I would use coaching, he calls the after action review. And this comes from the chapter about how U.S. forestry fire managers, and it's called the after action review. And this is something that we had done, but I never thought of calling it that. And that is after an event, in his case a fire, in our case a game, look at what worked, what didn't, and thirdly, how can we improve? I think that's a great little tool to use. What worked, what didn't, and how to improve. There are 2 chapters in there for the Steve Kerr, the NBA basketball coach, where he talks about how he built a culture. I think that's worth reading, and there's some points in there to gain from. And then the chapter that he has on the coach Paul Radcliffe, who is the Stanford girls soccer coach. And there's a good thing in there about how he develops his culture by calling them the leaders on the team. I think that's worthwhile for you. And one of the key things about this is he now has an app company. And the name of the app is the Champions Mind app. The Champions Mind app. And of course, it has cost involved, but you can watch webinars for free on there. You can get a free week use, and it has, as soon as you pull it up, it has icons of all the colleges and Olympic athletes who are using this app, which I was impressed with because I had never heard of this app before, because we couldn't afford, as most of you can, we couldn't afford a lot of these things, and so I didn't go that route, the things you had to pay. You can look at this app free for a week. You can download a 37-page workbook from the app. So I definitely would recommend that you investigate that, and that was something new I couldn't wait to share with our personal group and the entire group. I wanted to give you 3 new titles that if I read reviews over and over and they all are the same, I put it on my list and we're going to get it. So these are the ones I had pre-ordered. There are 3 of these. 2% Way by L. Roll, who is about a former football player who became surgeon. And then The Rise of the Black Quarterback and How It Affects America is supposed to be a really good read. And the third one, of course, are the leadership secrets of Nick Saban. I've read the other 2. We'll see. And maybe something we haven't heard of that's great. But these are the 3 that are being released during May that are like new hot football books for us to read. How are we doing, Coach, with time? Speed up. Okay, the next thing I have to tell you about is a new idea that we're very excited about. And then this is something that we're offering new. This is a new thing. You should have gotten a short form. If you didn't, we've got plenty, and Richard can give you one, or Todd can help if anybody didn't get that short form. This is a new idea, and we are going to read and take a trip. And so Bruce and Coach are excited, and Coach said we always loved our bus trips home from state championship games together. We did. We had a really good time on the bus coming back for playoff games. So it may be in a bus, it may be in a van, it may be in several vans, it may be in one car. We don't know. But I thought about what a great idea it would be if we unplugged and took a trip. Of course, now Coach wanted to add stadiums, going by some universities on this trip. But if we read a book and we went on the trip that would be inspired by the book. And you could do this with your staff. You could do it with your family members. Todd and his father have done this kind of thing where they read the book together. You could do it with your brother, your college roommate, or you could do it with us. And so these are the books that we're thinking about as starter ideas for our trip. The first one is Packland, which is the history of the most expensive bourbon in the world. But the book is really worthwhile because it's a story about how their family lost everything, and the son builds the business back because he shows great leadership in building the company back in honor of his father and his grandfather, and about the whiskey business and the bourbon business. But anyway, it's a good read. So that may go there to see the distillery. So then, and I also looked up, I was very shocked, there are 27 in North Carolina, there are like 30 in Virginia, and 30 in South Carolina. Bourbon and whiskey distilleries that we could visit. I mean, so it might be an hour trip, it might be 3 days, it might be 2 days. We don't have these details written out. Okay, the second one, Leave Only Footprints. Actually, this author is a correspondent for the Sunday morning show, one of Nate's favorites, the CBS show, and he got dumped at the altar, and so he goes to every national park in the country. So kind of fascinated by that. Our choices are the Congaree, the New River Valley, and the Smoky Mountains. So within a short ride for that. But anyway, so I'm fascinated with that idea. Then I love this book, Assassination, because of course my background is history. Assassination Vacation. Sarah Bow she writes with a great deal of wit and dry wit and humor. But she goes to every place where a president has been assassinated and other major political figures. And she takes these different trips. And so that's one that Bruce is leaning for. So that would be, I would maybe start with Washington and Lincoln's assassination, I don't know. But Bruce is fired up about going to where somebody's been assassinated. As I said, I would rather go to presidential libraries or presidential homes. But anyway, but this book is great, Assassination Vacation. This book is also excellent. The U.S. Official U.S. Civil Rights Trail book, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Richard and some other people who I know want their younger children to understand about the civil rights movement in a different context. And this book is a guide, like a travel blog, to all those places. Then, to get you hooked, if you've not read the Doc Ford series, they're all set, if you like fish in particular, they're all set in Florida. And he has a bar on Captiva Island and Sanibel. Then there's the Tony Hilron books, which I love and have read all of them. And when they were first recommended to me, and somebody said, you need to read the Navajo Mysteries. I was like, Navajo Mysteries. I love them. I've read every one of them. And that, of course, involves New Mexico and Arizona. But there's also a book. So many people have taken trips on the Tony Hilron books that they now have a book entitled Hillman Country. Then this one also would be in the first trip, probably. Some of you may have heard of this movie, A Walk in the Woods, but the book is great. It's hilarious. I mean, you will be laughing out loud. Bill Bryson is an author who I've read his other books, but anyway, he wants to walk the Appalachian Trail, he decides. And he can't find anybody to go with him. He tries everybody. All his college friends, authors, and all these people. And he finally gets a high school friend he hadn't seen in like 35 years to go with him. He has no idea. He's extremely overweight and an alcoholic. And so I say, and then when they meet up to start the Appalachian Trail, we do have one of our assistant coaches from Lancaster who is trying to do all of it in different parts, and it's been twice this year and is getting ready to go again. I'm saying we would walk maybe an hour or 2 hours on this trip on the Appalachian Trail. But in regards to that book, this was one of Coach's favorites that we read about the Appalachian Trail, Grandma Gatewood's Walk, about his grandmother was in the 30s, I think, 50s. She just starts walking, and really it's the history of the Appalachian Trail, and everywhere she went, it is really a good read. And I think she never went back home hardly. I mean, she walked it for years. But that's a good book. And then we're reading right now Travels with George, which is Nathaniel Philbrick is the historian who's written the book, and he has retraced Washington's trips. And so that's what we're reading right now. So I'm not sure what the first trip is going to be, but if you think you would be interested in going with us on a short, I'm talking like 2 days, 3 nights, first trip, you have this short form, and Richard will get you one if you didn't get one. If you're interested in being notified about this, if you'll just fill this out for us, we'll let you know what develops with Founders Explorations and with the trip. Coach, was anything else? That's enough? Oh, we have one more thing. Remember, I wanted to ask if anybody had read something they wanted to share with us that they thought was great. Now, I had one person, but he was exposed to COVID, that was supposed to stand up and talk and say something. So I'm counting on Coach Scott as one, right?
Right. Read the Hunt for Bin Laden, which we've all heard the story, but by Chris Wallace, and really explores President Obama and his leadership style, and Admiral McCraven, which most of us have heard about, and a lot of the personalities that were in that hunt. And I just thought it was, after you read it, you realize that there's a lot of leadership points in there too.
And we read that and really enjoyed it. We did a whole one, that was our theme one year, was the military. And Kyle used that theme too. What did we call that year? What was that called? I did it, you did it the next year. We used that military theme. Anyway,
Y'all make it happen.
oh yeah. And we had a t-shirt too that said that, remember? Yeah, thanks, Coach. All right, anybody else have something they read great they want to share with us?
Well, Greatness, it's actually named Greatness. Dr. David Cook, sports psychologist, was for the Spurs. Very good book, basically studies the greatest people in their professions and basically come with 4 common traits. It's a book we actually teach in our development class. It's a really good book.
Richard and I've seen that book. Did you write that down, Richard, for us? Did y'all hear that? Greatness by
Dr. David Cook.
Dr. David Cook. We have seen that book, but we haven't read. I'm so glad to know that's really worthwhile.
Very good.
Thank
Now,
you.
it's expensive. The book is about 100 pages long. It's very easy to read, but it's a $100 book. And when he wrote the book, has it to be a gift. He says, we'll spend $100 on a night out, we'll spend $100 on a meal. Are you willing to spend $100 on somebody that matters to you, give them some encouragement, guidance along the way? So it's a really, really good book, especially if you feel like giving somebody a
It's a
gift.
great present. Richard and I've always had, I've had particularly good, every book I've ordered used. It's been great, perfect shape.
You gotta leave the price tag on that book,
What?
though. You gotta leave the price tag on that book, make sure everybody knows that.
Yeah, you give that, right there. Okay, what else? Another one? Anybody?